on average 4.3333 indefinitely, 4.3 weeks per month, not 4, right? Because there's 52 weeks in a year. You divide that by 12, that gives you your average per month. Same kind of thought process. If you have an expense or a payday that happens every 2 weeks, there's 26 2-week periods per year, not 24. And I just throw that out there as a silly little illustration about how these things, as simple as they are, really are also easy to kind of get off track on. So even that can be the answer sometimes to the question at the end of the year that some people have in terms of, I've got this $5,000, this $6,000 balance on my credit card. Where did it come from? I mean, it could be as simple as a 4-week month calculation versus 4.3 over an annual basis. So just be thinking about that as you're doing your calculations. And how many of you, let me see a raised hand if you, or a smiley face, if there is someone in your family who is self-employed or straight commission. Let me see your hand if that's the case. Self-employed, straight commission, maybe they're 1099, something like that. Got a few of you, Megan, Ashley, anybody else have a family member? April says she does. Okay, well, a few of you. So the idea there is, I see Leslie. Okay, if you have someone that's self-employed or commission only, you just want to be conservative, right? It's tempting to take the best month you've ever had and figure your budget based off of that, or the earnings you think you're going to get a few months down the road when you get that big contract pulled in or whatever it might be. Same thing with expenses. It's really tempting to take your least expensive month and say, okay, here's my expenses that I need to calculate and plan for. So you want to look more for an average, be conservative. It's not a perfect science, but just think about that too. And then gross income versus net. The gross earnings is what we actually make, even though that's not what we take home if we are an employee. That is what we make. So after taxes and insurance and 401k and other things come out, then yes, we have the net left over. But when you're finding your money, you do want to look at your gross earnings and start with that, not your net. Because although we don't get to decide whether or not we pay taxes, and even though we have to have insurance, and even though we need to save for retirement, we do have control over how much in each of those categories. So you can file a new W-4 form and change the amount of taxes that are withheld. If you get a big tax refund every year, maybe you ought to look at that and get some of that money back in your paycheck that you can use intentionally throughout the year. Insurance, you have control over the type you have, which plan, and also in a household with more than one options and more than one people that have insurance available, you get to choose which one you're going to use. Same thing with 401k. How much are you contributing? There's other things that come out, obviously, HSA contributions, sometimes charitable contributions and other things. But just look at that, because if we skip that, we're missing an important piece to the puzzle. And we always want to start with gross and look at those things on a regular basis. And then, yes, use statements, online banking transactions, and things like that to find how much you are spending in all these different areas. And track your spending for a period of time using an app or a spending log. If you want to go old school, you can get one of those little small pocket notebooks, pads of paper, and just carry it around with you. And every time you spend a dime, you want to write that down or log it in and make a note of it. Most people are really surprised by how much they spend in certain areas if they're not actually tracking it like that on a daily basis. And you don't have to do that forever and always, but as an exercise, a 1 or 2 month activity at least, if you'll do that, I think you will find that will really, really help you find where some money's been hiding that you might not be aware of. So once we find the money, then we can go about making changes if we want to, or just keep things exactly like they are, but now we'll be doing it intentionally on purpose, aka a budget. Think about it like this. Budgets are not for rich people. Budgets are not for poor people. Budgets are simply for intentional people, and that's what we're talking about this morning.